action items. Back to you, Dave.
Two things. First one, and I made a copy of this for you, and not all of the policies, but this is just a summary of the various policies we're talking about tonight on first reading. They're all attached in your agenda if you'd looked at them before, but these are all in reaction to legislation passed this most recent legislative session. So we have 5 new policies, 19 revisions, and 3 recessions or rescindings because it's just time we regroup some of them, as you've seen. I want to talk about a couple of them in particular. A major change is public participation in board meetings. This is 213, and again, this is based upon new law, not board preference, that for a new way to participate in the board meeting for the public then will be to petition the board for a hearing on a particular item. And so if a patron can come up with, in this case, 500 votes, it was 500 versus 992, which was 10% of the number of people who voted in the last election, then they can bring an item to the board meeting as a public hearing in which to state their cause or their case. It's not an action item. It's not something the board has to act on, but it gives somebody an opportunity to bring an issue in front of the board, where perhaps now they maybe would come to the board president. The president says, no, I'm not interested in talking about whatever that was. Now
the Iowa Sunshine Law still, though, if they do come with something and have enough signatures, then the board can't participate, right? Or
it's a hearing, right?
Okay. So
we've got some. In the policy, you can see how we're going to handle those things. But again, I think this is still relatively new. This may need some tweaking as we go along. I do think 500 is a pretty high threshold for doing it this way, but it was 500 or 10%, whichever was less. So for us, it's 500. So that's a pretty big change right there. And then 213.1 kind of goes along with it is public complaints. And while we know that we have to put this comment or statement in our handbooks, we don't know exactly what it is yet. So our handbooks have a place for public comments or public complaints and what to do with them, but the exact language will be inserted once we get that language from the Department of Education. 302.5 and 303.6 have to do with superintendent and administrative evaluations, and as we've talked previously, the standards of leadership in Iowa are changing, and thus the way we evaluate those folks is going to be changing to align with that, and so those policies reflect that. The other one I want to talk about is 606.2. This is the school ceremonies and observances. Not a new policy, but we've adopted it to include the required Pledge of Allegiance daily in grades 1 through 12. So that becomes policy because of the way the law was written. So that's an adoption there. So those are the ones I wanted to highlight for you on first reading, and I'll take any questions on any of the others.
I do have a question on the weapons in the school district.
Sure. 905.3.
Yeah. The number of specific instances where individuals may carry firearms on school grounds if certain circumstances are met. Do we know those circumstances right now?
Yes.
Okay. And so are the signs that are outside schools that say no guns, will those come down or?
No.
Okay.
I think they're going to have to be modified. We're not sure of the guidance on that yet.
Right.
So the exceptions to the policy for weapons include law enforcement, military personnel, corrections officers, individuals approved in writing by the superintendent, students and individuals approved in writing by the superintendent who are actively engaged in school district firearm safety course, hunter education courses, or shooting sports activities.
Okay.
So those all come from the law itself.
Right, so it just won't be people coming off the street?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, good. Thanks.
Well, we'll see these at the next meeting for second reading, so if any questions come up between now and then, don't be afraid to ask your questions.